All right. So we just watched a movie that I think every one of you should watch. And I'm just going to lay that out there, opener. My name's Bruce. With me today is Six Nation 31 Kings for Bros discussing the movie Hundreds of Beavers. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Six Nations, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. Had a hard time trying to think of beaver jokes that would be, I guess, viewer friendly and kind of keep it PG. But I failed in that because it was all like dad jokes for kids or really nasty vagina jokes. So I failed on that.
It's quite okay. This is not a channel for children, so we can talk about adult things here. I'm just happy that we had a chance to see this. This is by far the movie that has surprised me the most in the last 2.5 years. And if we
I was thinking like, okay, what was it like last month? This was referred to us by Connell, right?
Yes.
And I was thinking, okay. So I looked at the trailer. It was like a whole minute and like 30 seconds or so. I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's got some slapstick. It's got that old-timey feel, like the old photo plays from like the early 1910s. You got that Betty Boop, Max Fleischer animation type thing going on, but it's also live action.
Funny stuff.
And I was like, okay, this is probably going to have a couple of slapstick moments, and then it's going to have some sort of period drama type thing. And it surprised the hell out of me. This was a really fucking good movie.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. Not in any random or even planned amount of fuckery, which this movie completely, just from the word go, it starts. And it doesn't let off the gas. There's like 2 moments where I caught a chance to breathe, and both of them were credit sequences. One of the credits starts at 33 minutes in, and the other is after the first hour has run.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Other than that, you're watching this and you're going, no way. This reminds me of the cartoon, the game that came out about 10 years ago called Cuphead, and it's black and white. It's a lot like a silent film, for the fact there's not a whole lot of dialogue. You can hear the characters grumbling and such, but there's no actual quote. Like they don't discuss the theories of life or anything. Even though there's definitely rocket science in this movie, it's one of those shows that you're just slapping your head like, oh my god, this is where we're at. We're doing this now, and it just doesn't let off. I loved it. I loved every aspect of this movie. I'm happy to say that. Hey, Crafting Gamer, how you doing, sir? This is a film that everybody should see. Like I said.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Okay, so the premise of the movie, maybe we should start with that.
Yes.
Jean Kayak is a brewer of Applejack, which is a byproduct of making cider. And he's up in the Great White North, I'm assuming, or Wisconsin at least, in that area.
I think it's more Minnesota, or maybe it is Wisconsin. It doesn't really go into like the precise location. We just see maps occasionally. It has the Great Lakes, so we can assume
it's got the stereotypical fur trapper types. Like there's the professional hunter guy, and he's kicking ass and bringing in pelts, and there's basically the merchant and the furrier. The furrier is his daughter, and he's looking at the main hunter or trapper as a prospective husband for his daughter, and the guy just wants to catch his furs. She's cute and all, but I don't want to get tied down. I'm a mountain man doing my thing. Meanwhile, you got Jean Kayak, who through a mishap and some sabotage by the Beavers. So the Beavers are responsible, in my opinion. They sabotage his 2 large vats of
Applejack,
cider and Applejack, and basically lay waste to his entire operation, destroy his home, his orchard, his means of production, and he's left with nothing. And somehow he makes it through the winter on nothing, with no skill, no tools. He ends up losing his clothes trying to feed himself, and then comes across the fur trapper. Oh, and the Native American. Native American was the first one that saved his bacon, if I remember correctly.
yes.
And so he kind of gets a little knowledge, gets a little tool, kills his first animal, trades it in for more tools, and the entire movie is him basically rebuilding his life and dealing with the struggles of living off grid in the wilds. And the animals, they're equally characters in this movie. They're not just the food source or the antagonists, although all of them are antagonists technically.
They fucking coyotes.
Yeah.
That was the part that pissed me off. Like, damn it. And the dogs. Like, I love the dogs, because when the dogs found the occupied trap, they grabbed said animal, and they're just humans in fursuits, okay? It's great. But then they start kicking them like it's a street fight. It's like, oh my God. Oh, the humanity. And it just never really stopped. It was so enjoyable to watch people just going about in their business like these critters. And that's the entire film. Like, at first he's going for rabbits because rabbits are tasty. And then he tries going for the eggs because he's thinking about eggs. His stomach provides motivation for the first 15 minutes of the film after he loses it all. And you're just watching this poor guy, feeling sorry for him, cannot catch a break until he starts putting it together. And that's the joy of this film. If you're an aspiring writer, watch this movie and see how the character learns how to progress through the various stages of I'm a survivalist. It's good.
It's the hero's journey, Buster Keaton style.
Yeah. I wish Connell was here to talk to us about this, because I would love to know his further thoughts in the movie. This is a film that I think everybody, like everyone, we're gonna be broadcasting this to friends. Like, you need to see this, you need to see this, you need to see this, you need to see this. I can see this happening over the course of time. It's going to be like have you seen the movie Hundreds of Beavers? I know that's coming. This is
the type of thing that you're going to see at like college campuses, midnight movies. It's a great beer and pretzels movie with your friends.
Yes.
It's utterly absurd. Some of the trivia and stuff that I did read on IMDb while we were watching it, it was like $150,000 to make, estimated, with like $10,000 in fursuits, all bought on Amazon. And then, like, the scenes where the various characters are getting massacred, either through hunting or combat, You can tell it's a fursuit, but then like when they're cutting it open at the furrier, the beavers and the wolves and the raccoons and whatnot, they got like your Halloween skeleton inside the suit, packing peanuts, and then like fuzzy dog toy versions of internal organs and stuff. Like they fit the theme of these ridiculous cartoony looking critters, but they put so much detail in it, and it was all like off the shelf stuff. It was amazing.
I was really surprised that all of this came through so well, and it just it didn't make sense that you have this level of film, and we're only seeing it in 2024 because the hero's story is he starts off learning the tricks of the trade, and he's starting to get a little better, and he gets hung up on something and falls down a pit and breaks his legs, and thank God for the master trapper who finds him and gives him some braces to help his legs mend. And then the sad part is the dogs get killed off piece by piece, one by one, and he has to pull duty, pulling the wagon, pulling the sled towards the very end of the dog's career. It's just a silly, wonderful little film, and there's a couple things that are like they're body or adult situations, but they're not. They're not really that adult oriented to where you can't show this off to your kids.
Yeah, the kids will love it on one
Yeah.
level. The adults will pick up on it. It's like a Tex Avery cartoon.
Yeah.
In that respect, you got the body humor, the good looking gal, the whole pole dancing routine.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit risque, but I mean, the young kids have probably seen it already.
Yeah, if they got the internet, they've seen a million times.
Here's crafting. Hey, Cigar DM.
Hello.
Cigar DM, you're invited to get on in here if you want. How you doing there, Mr. Crafting?
I'm fine.
Excellent.
I'm surprised you invited me, or I didn't watch this movie.
It's okay. We need to have somebody who's a control factor.
You should go watch the movie. It's really good.
Well, my thing is unless it's a documentary or stand-up comedy, most of the time when I watch a movie, even comedies like this, my mind starts flooding with ideas of how I could quote unquote make it better. So I constantly just don't get that much entertainment out of movies watching them as I really should. There are a few movies that, like City of Lost Children, that just grabs me all the way through.
Well,
but that is few and far between. That is true.
The City of Lost Children is a really different film because that one is a foreign film with a person who's not from America. I wouldn't say they're not away from, they're divested and divorced from Western civilization, but I would say they are not a typical Hollywood-esque actor or director, and so their idea of a story that goes from point A to point B is a lot different than, say, a movie like this, which is constructed like, say, Castlevania 3 or Super Castlevania 4 in some spots, and a lot of roguelite video games today. And I was feeling that as he was getting his currency under control and he was getting better and better weapons and tools, because at the start of the film, he's not able to afford anything. And by the end of the film, he's racking up a body count of hundreds of beavers. And it's great. This is... I'll have to share this with you one of these nights soon. That's all I'm going to say. You might really enjoy this, or you might be completely just no. I don't.
I will add that the Beavers had a space program.
Yes, they had a Kerbal style space program, which, if anybody out there has played Kerbal Space Program, your astronauts have only 2 tributes. stupidity and cowardice, or bravery and stupidity, and that's the only two attributes that the little spaceball or spacemen have in the Kerbal Space Program. Because everything else that might be valuable to them just isn't really valuable in game. It's cute. Um, I I gotta say this is a welcome diverse movie. Like the last month we've done, we've had a lot of films that really do not fit the typical mold of like movies that Western civilization would want to see. You know, we're not watching Schwarzenegger or Arnold films. We're doing things like Hundreds of Beavers. Uh, what was that movie you recommended? The foreign film we were just talking about it.
Oh, City of Lost Children.
City of Lost Children. We have these films that are not typical. They're really indie sphere movies, and City of Lost Children might have had a major release, but you talk to people about that film in 2024, and you got to jar people's memory on it. It had a very young looking, the guy who played the Beast in Beauty and the Beast had very young looking Ron Perlman. Okay, you remember that?
Yeah, Ron Perlman.
Yeah, and had Ron Perlman, and then it was really nice and bright, and it was not looking like Strange Days, which was another good '90s sci-fi film. And there was a lot of good things to appreciate with that movie. Like I said, I'm going to
The
watch
'90s had a vibe of its own. Like,
yeah,
the fashion was bad, but the action movies, the sci-fi, the whole vibe was really good. Like, '80s and '90s were like pinnacle pop culture for us, and it's nice to revisit that stuff. And then you got this, which is like total left field from what I expected. I was thinking, okay, it's going to be live action animation, a little bit of slapstick. No, this was like balls to the wall, absurdity, and surrealness. It was great, and the amount of Easter eggs and references, like, holy shit! You could be talking about this movie for weeks on end, bringing up a little bit of tidbits that you see in there.
like I would have loved to have Janet watch this just so she could be at this part of our process for Sunday and discuss what this movie reminded her of, because her experiences in a movie house and her viewing is a lot different than mine. And so
Yeah,
I want to know,
Well,
what
something
movie,
I was gonna. Sorry.
go ahead.
Something I was going to suggest you and Janet could do probably in a couple of years to make sure you have a good list of them. But each of you pick your top 5 or maybe even top 10 movies you liked and rewatch them, see if they still hold up X time out later after absorbing even more media.
That there's gonna have to be a caveat on that, because the movies that we could do that with, we will probably not want to watch a movie we've seen like 40 or 50 times, like The Thing or Big Trouble in Little China, Aliens, Empire Strikes Back. How do I feel about it when I'm 60 or 65 years of age? Well, the same way I did when I was like 5. I'm pretty certain those movies I'm not going to change my opinion on. But a movie I've seen like less than 5 times, yeah, I could do that. Because when I was 19, The Cowboy Way was a really good movie. But when I was 47 and I watched The Cowboy Way again, I remembered I watched it when I was 19, but I didn't remember hating it when I was 19. I remember just enjoying all the stupid events and thinking, wow, this movie is so lit. This movie is so fantastic. This movie is so neat. And they got the Ghostbuster in it, and 94 was a good year for Ernie Hudson. But it really is one of those things where we could go back to movies we really enjoyed, but we haven't seen a whole lot, because we go to a movie we've seen like 10 or 20 times. Like, hey, Janet, I want to ask you in about 3, 5, 6 years, let's watch The Raid again and see what you think about it. You know, The Great Raid, because that's like her favorite movie. And she could write the script for it. She could write the script verbatim. I don't think it's going to have much of a change from what we did in 2022 versus what we're going to do in 2030. I think she's still going to be absolutely over the hills for that movie.
That's fair.
And I'm on to your point. I plan on watching The City of Lost Children again in about 10 months. I don't want to watch it like 40 times in a month, because I think that would actually ruin the experience of that movie. I think if I watch it intermittently throughout the seasons or years, I think I'd get more out of it, because, okay, I remember this part. Oh, that's what they were doing. And that sort of puts that in process together, because that movie is so abstract and it has such a different way of telling its narrative than conventional mainstream films, that movie, you shouldn't watch it back to back to back to back. Maybe I'm wrong.
I did that with Army of Darkness. I had it on VHS. I played in the background while I was working on my D&D campaign or adventure hooks and whatnot. And after doing that for like a week straight, I had memorized the entire movie. And then a couple weeks later, my friends and I got together and we watched a whole mess of George Romero zombie movies, and then kind of lighten the mood. We got the Army of Darkness VHS out. I was watching it and I was like quoting every single line in my head, and it kind of ruined the experience for me. Like, I love the movie to death. Bruce Campbell is freaking awesome. Greatest B actor ever. But like, I just fried my brain with that movie. So I took a couple of years off before watching it again.
Did
Still
either
a great
of you
movie.
see the Evil Dead TV show?
Yes, and
I seen
I
one
had mixed
episode and
feelings
I
about it.
regret it.
It was interesting. I could see where they were going.
I absolutely hated the idea. You mess with the head and they instantly die. It's like, fuck that. In the original, you cut the thing apart, it came back. You cut off its head, it just kept talking at you. You literally
It's hard to do that with a slapstick TV series, though. That's basically what it was. It was like, okay, Bruce has been doing this since '78 when the first movie came out.
Well, I thought of something right off the bat. They want to do that. There should have been a passage in the book or something that they heard of that allows them to burn the body without burning anything around. Just basically set the body ablaze. And voila, you have the problem solved. And you can have all the slapstick, all the cut apart scenes, and you don't have the stupid zombie trope death. I hated that because it's a zombie trope of how you kill zombies. It's the trope of how you kill zombies. Like, these aren't zombies, they're fucking possessed demons. There is a fucking difference.
Yeah, it was the last swan song of the franchise, because like, he was probably getting tired of it.
Yeah,
like, he loves his fans. He loves the series. It was a great experience, but people obsessed over that shit. They always wanted another Evil Dead movie. They did it in the video games. The reboot went more serious, but yeah, the series, I kind of liked it.
Well, the
originals
were
quite
cool. Serious, so.
But because it was classic Raimi and Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
And whoever else wanted to be a Shen in that group.
I grew up with Evil Dead, The Army of Darkness. I grew up with those movies. So that one thing just bugged the fuck out of me, because it is like that they are not zombies. Since when did they turn into zombies? They were always supposed to be demon possessed. So that just that one little thing where they could have set the bodies ablaze without burning things around them, which is more than writable given the way the way the first 3 movies went and the way the TV show itself was going. That could have easily been written in. But no, we're just going to go with this.
Except it was filmed in New Zealand, and I think they got certain censorship that you got to contend with. So
setting a
the director being married to one of the main characters, and it's filmed entirely in Kiwi land. Like, I can see the limitations and why it happened.
I know. I'm a stickler for the IP. Stick with the IP or don't do it at all. The moment you change the IP, you change the whole fucking feel. It's no longer that movie. Doing that one thing changes it from a feel of these are demonic beings to, oh, it's just a fucking another zombie show. And I instantly lost interest because of it.
Yeah, I can see that. But you also got to realize that Sam and Ted Raimi and Bruce, they all grew up watching Three Stooges. And so, like,
Marx Brothers.
You see
Don't forget the
Marx Brothers. Yeah. Those two series right there are classic, where they got their humor, the slapstick comedy, the physical comedy, and whatnot. So you see that interspersed in all of Raimi's works. And so that's why they went the zombie route. You could do a lot of physical comedy with that.
You can do a lot of physical comedy with the cut them apart too. Literally the whole cut off the head and it's just laughing, bouncing across the wall like a bouncing ball, and then it comes back and bites a character. That would have been funny as hell.
That's why we got the 3 original movies. Like, that will never change. And I think it's better that way. Like, it would be awesome to have a 4th movie, but what are they going to do that they haven't already done? To be honest.
I'm trying to think.
Unless you're going into the back history of all that.
Damn it! I'm trying to think of at what points during Evil Dead do you stop the tape or DVD and you insert Evil Dead 2 and you start it at a certain point, and then at a certain point you stop that before the big monster tries to attack, before they have the scene with Bridget Fonda at the very end, and then you start Army of Darkness, because those 3 movies can be seen together all within minutes of each other, but there's like the endings of each one do not seamlessly go into the other. That's the only negative.
Well, the second one is pretty much a recreation / extension of the first one. So
yeah, and actually, I'll even go and say that I don't watch the first one that often. The first one has some iconic moments in horror movie and practical effects.
Well,
but I love the second one.
I watched the first one for the more darker aspects. The second one start not completely, but leans a little bit into the more comedic aspect, and of course, Army of Darkness straight up. It's a joke fest. In a good way, but still. Like and the whole broken mirror and a bunch of minis is hilarious.
Struggle Snuggle before the whole hentai thing hit the West, so that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yay, America. For a horror movie, it was great. The first one, Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2 is one of my favorites because it's just bigger budget, better production. And then Evil Dead 3 kind of hits that fantasy, fantastical aspect that the first one was way too serious. The other one was kind of slapstick. This one was a good like family version of the series. Like it's kind of bizarre. You want to introduce your kids to Bruce Campbell and The Evil Dead, you should do it in reverse.
Well, if you want to introduce the horror movies, the Army of Darkness is a good place to start because it's not completely horror, but it's got a few scenes that would definitely make a kid cringe or even jump.
Hey, Plady, how you doing, sir? Good to see you here.
Yeah. For a little while, I thought
Ahoy,
you died.
hoy.
This
You sort of
I
dropped off the face of the earth.
on the topic of like introducing your kids to horror, don't ever neglect 1986 classic The Gate. And that's
The Gate, yes.
There's a good sequel. Both of them have great practical effects, but The Gate is really a good little movie.
As a 9-year-old, and seeing the commercial and having a vivid imagination, the whole scene with the body in the wall scared the crap out of me. And then when he hit the floor and turned into those little
other men,
demonoid things, yeah. Like the claymation in that was freaking awesome, and I miss that. And I understand why it's not done as much nowadays. But goddamn, the 80s was just rife with that stuff.
It's mainly a time issue. When you're doing claymation, stop motion, you're gonna burn 40 hours recording to get 50 seconds of quality footage, and that's why
like the good stuff runs 3 years in production, just filming, not even post-production to make that stuff. It's an epic undertaking.
If you're doing claymation, it's not because you want to make a lot of money. It's because you love the craft. That's all there is to it. If you're doing,
you're trying to sell raisins.
Yeah, I don't think it's really financial reasons now, because I think you can probably do some serious work with a PC, a mid-range PC like what you buy at Costco for $1,000, and just with the assets that are available off Blender and like Thingiverse, and just building your own. You're going to spend a lot of time building those assets, getting the animation right, but that's a lot cheaper and still a lot quicker than going with stop motion and claymation.
Case in point, Red versus Blue.
Very much so. There's a lot of good web series now that you bring that up.
Oh yeah, like a guy mentioned it yesterday. Completely AI generated. I think even the AI plays the game because it can get really weird in how it plays sometimes. Is Presidents Play Horror Games. It is obvious AI. There are times that it sounds like it might be scripted because they go back and forth quite well, and then all of a sudden one of them will say something completely random that's like, oh yeah, that is definitely AI generated.
Yeah.
God, what was that Adult Swim animation? Shaman King?
Oh.
Liquid Television was epic. But I was just thinking of that CGI, like horrible-ass CGI, and it was such a bizarre, absurd show where the guy's a shaman coming out of the desert, and he's trying to be the white knight savior of everybody's problems, but he's butting into people's lives and destroying not only their lives but the people around them. The whole community and city is just like one large clusterfuck. And it was like Adult Swim back in its heyday at peak performance had some really bizarre but creative stuff. And it makes me think of this movie. Like, these guys have a background in theater or performance. Some of them have some cinema chops, I'm assuming. And they were able to put this stage play into a film and do it extremely well. And it was funny as hell, like nonstop. with the exception of the two pauses during the scene changes. And you gotta think like these independent studios, if they can do that, why the hell are we wasting our time with Hollywood and these hundreds of millions of dollar productions that are putting out subpar crap?
Well, that's always a question that I ask people. It doesn't take a whole lot of incentive to just cut off something like, say, cable internet, and say I'm just going to go with fiber because I don't want to support Time Warner, or I don't want to support ABC. I don't like Google that much either, but I'm only funding Google on that aspect, and now I'm not helping. Like if I buy from certain cable providers, some of that money goes to ESPN, AT&T, which I don't really appreciate. If I get this from there, I'm funding HBO and their garbage original programming, which there's a lot more of that than what there used to be. HBO used to make really good content like Rome or The Wire, and somewhere along the lines they've just completely bought into the agenda and the message, and they're making things that really not a lot of people are asking for. And so I'm trying to be selective with where my money gets funneled to, and so I do buy from Google, which is a company that really appreciates the agenda, but I don't feel that a lot of people are profiting off my purchase on that, whereas other things, if I was getting my cable internet through, like, say, T-Mobile or Verizon, I know where the money from there goes to, and I'm happy that not such a large cut of it would still get funneled from Google into those secondary things that I'm politically and religiously against. Uh, I do like that, but saying no to Netflix, saying no to Disney Plus is something that it doesn't take a whole lot of gumption to find, because there is the high seas. I know that's not quote unquote legal, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that aren't legal that everybody does on a daily basis. I'm not saying, oh, well, everybody else does it, so I'm going to do it too. No, I'm making a conscious decision to get involved with alternative means because I don't want Disney to make a dollar off me in the least bit. I don't want to. I don't want to help profit to Time Warner, who makes garbage. And if I can get that money that I'm spending to independent independent creators, that right there is the goal that I have. Let's bring in our friend Connell. Connell, how you doing, sir?
I am in the middle of moving, but I need to take a freaking break because fuck, it's hot in Illinois right now.
No,
well, everyone keep their heads down. We don't want to get shot by an arrow with a water marble.
Hey, that is a great idea. I'm sure I've used it before.
Yes, you have. I've heard that story many times. That's where that joke came from.
Okay.
This is a
baseball bat of healing.
Hey, we have those gauntlets on Nerdy. All we need to do is put healing potions on him. He can literally punch heal us.
Oh, it's only 90 degrees in Pekin, Illinois, man. What are you complaining about? It only feels like it's 92 today.
Man. Not to get into too much of a poor me, but the medicine they have me on for my mental issues make it where anything above like 70 is way too fucking hot.
Ugh.
Your body's saying it's more comfortable to be cooler than to be hotter. And that's also, Darwin saying, hey, keep yourself elevated a little bit on your temperature, and what'll happen is that you're going to actually burn a little bit more in calories.
Oh yeah. When it's hot outside, I drink a hot ice, drink a hot tea. I keep my core. I don't shock my core. So, but I'm glad to hear that you and Six Nations enjoyed the movie.
was fantastic recommendation, dude.
It's such a dumb, but it's not a dumb movie, but it's just a dumb movie, if that makes any sense.
Simple.
Yeah.
It's a simple concept.
It's absurdist comedy, slapstick. It's like an homage to days past when the silent movies were turning into talkies, because you do get some dialogue, but you don't know exactly what they're saying. That's why I was saying Mr. Max would be good to help translate the courtroom scene, at least.
Bruce.
Say again?
That sound's coming from Connell.
Okay, I didn't know.
It didn't show up till he did. It's a weird reverberation.
Yeah, there's a weird reverberation. Now, let me go in your audio real quick. Your mic settings. Try that. Let me try that. See if that. I'm going to reduce your background noise. Does that work?
I don't know. Does it?
He's not hearing it.
I still hear it.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's all right.
My normal equipment I use is boxed away.
Yeah.
But no, that movie, it kind of reminds me of the Bugs Bunny meets the Marx Brothers meets Chevy Chase when he was funny.
1975, yeah.
Years ago, when dinosaurs ruled the earth and Chevy Chase was humorous.
That movie to me is right up there with Caddyshack.
Yeah, I can see that. Substitute the beavers with the gopher.
Yeah. I mean, granted, those beavers were making a rocket ship. So.
That gopher was smart enough, too. It was also smart enough to know it didn't need to. So.
Yeah.
I got to ask, do you think they're going to make a sequel?
I hope so. The Revenge of the Hunt. See, you got to be careful with the bird, the word beaver. It's like the movie Snatch. Hey, have you seen the movie Snatch this week?
It makes me think of when I was looking for the DVD. I called up Suncoast. They didn't have it yet. I called up the warehouse. They didn't have it. Sam Goody had it in stock. And I was like, excuse me, I'm looking for the movie Snatch. Do you have it on DVD? And they're like, we don't sell porno. I'm like, no, it's a Guy Ritchie film. Snatch. The guy that directed Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. As in, grab. It's a heist film. They're stealing something.
Oh, okay. Let me go check.
And then they're like, oh, yeah, we got it. I'm like, cool. Thanks.
That's no worse than Palladium. It's basically an evil ghost, but it's called the Scarlet Roper. That has certain connotations in nowadays.
Zombievers was pretty funny. Wasn't as caliber as hundreds of beavers. But I agree, Lady. It was an all right movie.
I don't know. There's a part of me that hopes that this movie gets a sequel, but I just don't know where you go with it. It's like, okay, he's got the daughter. They're going to get married. Does the son, does the son of this guy now has to deal with the genocide of beavers that his dad's caused?
Let's say that an offshoot. Another dam of beavers.
Sorry.
Let's say another dam builds a rocket, gets to the moon. Now you got space beavers. They've got a colony on the moon.
Sorry.
That's where I would go with the sequel.
All right, Crafty, now it's your turn.
I was thinking more along the lines of Hundreds of Beavers 2, Next Generation, Look Who's Beaving Now.
You can't return. Oh man, no. Model it kind of after wordage like you did with Revenge of the Nerds. Granted, Revenge of the Nerds, the first one, did not age well.
How do you figure?
It's kind of rapey.
I'm trying to remember.
She thinks it's her boyfriend. They go into the fun house. She's assuming that's her boyfriend. They're doing. It's not until after the deed is done, he takes off the helmet. She realizes, oh my God, it's you. But you're so good at it.
Yeah. I see now. I see the problem here.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying, it's definitely
It's
an
aged.
80s movie.
Social norms have changed.
Yeah.
Folks would be Me Too'd into oblivion, which is not much better.
There's a few movies. There's a lot of movies from the 80s that, are just fucking amazing. Early 90s. And because society didn't have their head so far up their whining ass. I'm also tired. So
it was a time where like stuff was coming out and there was no boundaries. Like they didn't have a good wheelhouse to work from.
No.
And so it's like, okay, we're going to do this. But now the kids are crying. Why are the kids crying? Well, maybe because you put some really scary shit into a kids movie or television show, tone it down a bit. Then the soccer moms like see it and then they're like, oh my God, my kid's watching this crap. Why isn't it more educational? Okay, well, we'll do the same shit, but then we'll do the obligatory legal requirement of at least 5 minutes of content that's educational. And then the execs are like, well, we need to make more money. So then you just basically make a program or a movie off of a toy line or whatever is making the most money. Like the Cabbage Patch Kids craze turned into the Garbage Pail Kids cards.
I had some of those cards.
And I've had a shit ton of those cards. I used to save my milk money just to buy the cards. And the movie sucked.
I saw that movie back in the day, too.
Ugh. But yeah, they ended up making a movie about it, too. And so it was a magical time. It was like the Wild West, where anything's possible, even the bad stuff.
Well, I love 80s and I love the early 90s, but you have Beavis and Butthead. That granted, that was on MTV, but MTV stopped being MTV somewhere in the mid 90s because MTV.
Post 95.
Yeah, as soon as the reality shows came on, MTV was just crap. I don't care how much you guys like the real world, it's still fucking blue because it, didn't want it. So MTV had cartoons. Well, cartoons were meant for kids. Oh, not these cartoons. What do you mean, not these cartoons? Then you
Brothers
have
Grunt.
What?
Brothers Grunt, which was an offshoot of Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah. Then it just, I see how it happened.
You had Liquid Television, which was a cool anthology of animation and weird, surreal shit.
Because, most of our parents or grandparents, depends on who raised you, kids, cartoons are safe. I mean, they're a little rambunctious, but they're more or less safe. Go ahead and let your kids watch them. Then the 90s and their cartoons happened that weren't kid-friendly by any stretch of anybody's imagination. And I think that was just the beginning of the proverbial end. I don't know.
Well, we still had Mr. Rogers up until 2000 something.
Yeah, thank God for PBS.
Not anymore.
There were shows that were the anchor, pull us in through education and morality, and now we're in that age where everybody's dying off, and we don't don't have any decent torchbearers because, like, Gen X, we were left to the wild to fend for ourselves. So, like, we don't give a fuck. We don't care about your feelings.
I've heard too many people complain about the fact that Gen X is abandoning millennials and Generation Z, but we've said our piece, and a lot of us put it on video or wrote it down, so it wouldn't be hard to go find out what exactly instructions we've left. We're no longer the ones that are begging for relevance. We're the ones that we're fading. We're going off the horizon. We're going to the sunset.
We're Paul Maudib after the first book. We've been blinded, but we still got our powers. So we're gonna go wander the desert and just disappear.
So speaking of Generation X and going into the way of the sunset, I think all malls are still standing and are in good shape. Should be turned into assisting living houses, because most of Gen X, including me, spent most of our childhood in malls. So why should we retire in a mall?
I don't want to retire in a place where I got shot down at 40 times.
Oh, shot down?
That was when I was a young kid. That was where you went to pick up on ladies.
Yeah.
And I
Capitola Mall had some stuff, but I wouldn't want to live there. Like, it doesn't have half the shit that I grew up in.
I've had more luck in game stores with the geek girls, and my wife's a geek girl for the most part. So I don't want to retire at a mall. At the point where I have to retire. Really,
a friendly local gaming store with a barbecue shop next door.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
The only way I'd ever retire in the mall is if everybody, like all the old people, had stores from their generation there.
Lady says the big mall in my family's area is mostly an apartment complex now.
Not a big surprise.
Yeah, we got the Karcher Mall, and it hasn't been shit in the 8 years that I've been here. And apparently it's owned by some company out of California, so they're just like sitting on it while all the businesses fail. So property-wise, I guess it's a good thing, but as far as helping out the community, supporting businesses and stuff, there ain't jack shit.
Well, I had the idea, and that's not going to happen, turning a mall, like Northwoods Mall in Peoria is pretty good size. I mean, there's definitely malls that are bigger than that, and there's definitely malls that are smaller, but it's a decent sized mall. Turning that into taking out all the stores and turning them into like restaurants, I think would be interesting. But Peoria is not exactly the place you want to go for fine dining. And there's a few places, but not many. I mean, nothing beats was that busy corner over there in Goodfield.
I think you're muted.
Oh no, Bruce is muted. The YouTube might be able to.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
That's really weird. Okay. The busy corner is a nice place, but I can't get quality Lebanese food there.
No, Lebanese food in Peoria areas. Oh, yeah. No, you want to go to Deerfield up in Detroit for good Lebanese food.
Connell, you wouldn't happen to have a set of headphones or earbuds you could use, would you? I think maybe your phone is picking up on your us talking.
No, but I do probably need to sign off and get back to moving. It was a pleasure talking to y'all. I will definitely be around this coming Sunday for Game Brews.
That sound. This Sunday will not have game. This Sunday I have. Or this Saturday I have to work. I don't know how long it'll be, so I'm just saying for right now it's off. And plus, Chris and Janet are both going to be absent, so we'll
Okay.
continue. We'll continue in 2 weeks from then. Next high level game will be on the 14th.
All right. Well, you gentlemen have a good rest of the day. Next
too.
time you do a movie or do one of the movies I recommend, I will definitely make sure I'm here for the full panel show. I am just life being life.
You
I
know,
hear you.
we're worried about you. We're thinking about you and Brady. We know you guys got a lot of shit going on. We want you to be safe and healthy.
I appreciate that. Now, where did I put that duct tape? Anyways, talk to you later.
Later on, brother.
So, yeah.
Be well.
I was not aware that I was not broadcasting sound until I had the other. I don't know why it's doing that. Let me check my audio settings real quick. Yeah, it's on my razor.
Wah, 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 wah.
Is that all you're hearing?
No, I'm just saying that. I'm fucking with you.
Okay. Don't tell me that's what's going on there. Come on.
We'll start singing Charlie Brown's Coming to Town.
Christmas time is here.
Bring me the head of Charlie Brown.
That's a huge trophy case you have for that. Hey, Shadow and Son, how you doing, sir? This movie, I gotta say that crafting, you don't have to run out right away and go grab this film. But this is definitely a movie you want to put on your list of things to watch in 2024.
All right.
And I would say that it's probably going to be one of the funniest movies that is released this year.
Funny, lighthearted romp.
Yeah. Watch it with your family, even.
It's like
Bro, you're a lifesaver.
tastefully done dick and fart jokes.
Hello, T-Virus.
Creative use of snow people.
Oh God, that reminds me of a really. I have a movie I want to subject Bruce and Janet to someday, but I have to get up the gumption to actually watch it myself because it is so bad. Remember correctly, it's called Jack Frost. It's about a serial killer who gets dissolved into snow and becomes a killer snowman.
Is that the what's his face from Jurassic Park?
I think so.
Why can't I think of his name?
Michael Keaton?
Jeff Goldblum. Was it Jeff Goldblum or was it Michael Keaton?
No,
Is this Jeremy Page? No, Scott McDonald, Christopher Allport, and Stephen Mendel.
I can't remember the actors very well. I just remember it's a really bad movie.
Our friend T-Virus Terrence pops in for a drive-by hello. How you doing, sir? Let's share this. Is this the movie?
Oh, yep, definitely.
Okay.
Came out in
97.
I want to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Scott McDonald, Chris Allport.
I forgot if I rented
they made
that
a
or
sequel to it too.
I'll need to put that on the list. It looks like a appropriately schlocky movie. I love.
Like part of its schlockiness, in my opinion, I think this falls under schlock. You don't get to see any blood. It's just heavily implied people die.
The most violent movies you will see. Hey, Terrence, I know you're still supporting us, and we do see you. Your presence is felt, I might add. That guy. If anybody here has any questions about DC Comics and DC comic adaptations or remakes, I'm going to put T-Virus Terrence's link in the chat because he is a font of knowledge. Can go back pretty easily without the aid of Wikipedia. He recalls things off of memory. Back.
Freaking pro gamer move there with my ham fists. Oh, I'm going to close this tab.
Isn't that
Freaking
how
shut down StreamYard.
T-Virus, I appreciate you being here, sir. Like I said, if you have questions about DC Comics adaptations, remakes, or differences between certain writers and their abilities to translate some of the written and penned graphic novels to live action or some animated events, T-Virus Terrence is a fantastic source of information. You don't have to do that, sir. Appreciate the like and subscribe, but sir, your work is really good. He saved me some time because I had questions about the Arrowverse. I don't know if you guys have watched Arrow a whole lot. T-Virus brought a lot of clarity to a lot of things that were going on with the Arrowverse back in the 2010s.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it, and I thought it was pretty good. Out of all the adaptations, it was fairly decent. I really liked Daredevil, too.
Likewise, if you are into homemade crafting for tabletop games, for RPGs, another one of our channel subscribers is Shadow and Son, father and son team that do a lot of Q&A and how-to stuff for crafts. They don't just paint miniatures like I do. They actually will build them, and they will show you how to keep it under cost, how to keep it under $20 for good scenery, for good quality scenery that can be used over and over and over again.
Spell a bunch of folks on that channel, too.
Say again?
Swell bunch of folks on that channel.
Yeah.
Shadow and
he gets some panels put together, and he does really strong with them.
Yep. Covering all sorts of subjects. It's great.
They're putting together the quantum entanglement show. They've got a couple friends that do that with them. They do that with, and it's kind of like a harkening back to the Art Bell Coast to Coast golden days.
Yeah.
Not the George Snorri stuff. I call him George Snorri because he puts you to sleep. But
I don't like that guy. Art Bell was Kino.
And I really enjoyed listening to those guys talking. So I did some work for Shadow and got him an introduction set up. I think it's schlocky. I really do. But you liked what I did, and I uploaded earlier. So if you saw what I did on my channel earlier today, that's going to be popping up for a friend's opening for his show. I'm looking forward.
Does it have the chase in the beginning?
Yeah.
Harken back to Art Bell. Some of the best synth out there. Was prominent in the movie Midnight Express, which I recommend if you haven't seen it. Soundtrack's awesome. The movie, a little hard, but awesome as well.
I'm sorry, did you say Midnight Meat Train?
No, Midnight Express.
Midnight Express.
I was being a smartass.
Oh. Yeah, Midnight Meat Train was good.
Yeah, don't listen to Janet on that. Janet complains about that movie.
Get yourself the books of blood, read the story. Freaking phenomenal. That and The Last Illusion, which was Lord of Illusions back in '94 with Scott Bakula. Underrated actor. Love the man.
Yeah, T-Virus. I'm still putting myself together after being hospitalized a few years ago, and my lung capacity is reduced. So we're kind of fighting the long COVID over here, but there'll be some things I change in my regimen. Right now, I'm doing 12 hours of work a day, and about 3.5 hours is physical labor. So I actually do get some exercise. I need to work on my core a bit, and a friend of mine has showed me some ways to easily be able to achieve that while still working on the clock, being paid to exercise. So that's the plan. We'll try that this week. Um, I I really can't stand the rotation they do on the Coast to Coast show. Whenever they used to have a young guy named Ian Pundit. You remember him?
Vaguely, yeah.
He had one of the better engagements on Coast to Coast after Art Bell's departure and before his death. And he was always, I felt, a more personable host. I would be driving and I was like, dang it, I wish I had good signal so I could call. I'd have great AM. AM's great. You can be in Wyoming and receive Utah stations. But, AT&T, no, you got to be within like 7.5, 8 miles of a tower to get a TV signal or a radio signal. Or,
Yeah, they really nerfed it now. Yeah, that was when Coast to Coast was still like it dealt with like UFOs, cryptids, conspiracy theories, and it wasn't just primarily conspiracy theories and government stuff.
Or George Maury advertising for dialogue.
Yeah.
That's the problem that I have nowadays is that whenever I turn on the Coast to Coast, because I get to work at 2 a.m. And so now, I can, if I want to, bore myself and put myself to sleep with George Norrie or one of their other lackluster hosts. But Jimmy Church has a podcast, and Ian Punnett has one, I believe, as well, or he's doing something with some others in the paranormal fields, and they're pretty interesting to listen to. They're actually kind of the type where you can listen to it for 20 or 30 minutes, almost like Rogan, where you get a long conversation. That's something that Spotify really has tapped into, and they've got this gem of a product with the Joe Rogan podcast where you can listen to this guy have a conversation, build and evolve and go organically for 2 hours, and then they get into the meat of the matter after they've already bullshitted for 2 hours. They've already talked with each other about things. They kind of know each other now, and now they can get to what Joe Rogan's got his bullet points written down. In the last hour, usually you get some really good information because this guy's a noted technician or he's a noted researcher in these ideas and theories here. But Joe Rogan has to go this 2-hour circuitous route of getting around to like, well, what type of music do you like? What was your primary influences? What brought you into this field? And he kind of just chit chats around things. And then finally he navigates in and starts going in for that, we got to discuss this. And he goes for that meat. And so that's one of the things that Joe Rogan really has brought. Thank God Joe Rogan is out there, because otherwise I'd be worried that there'd be too many people that have ADHD because of TikTok, because of 5-minute videos on YouTube, and you can't have a long conversation. I want to have more product out there like that because I'm the type of person that I do work for long hours. And I know there's guys like you two that you guys will listen to an hour-long podcast or conversation between two people that are having good content, high quality conversation and exchange of ideas. The crafting over here, this guy is developing a web brand. He doesn't know it yet, but he's building up his web brand, and he's doing fantastic work with miniatures. He's getting into fiction. He's doing game theory and design. Even if he says he's building it for Palladium, he's going to have his own iteration or version of his Palladium B100 system, which will be probably a roll under. But he's going to do his own thing, and maybe in 10 years, he's going to have a bibliography or gameography, which you can go and research, and you can see exactly what he's been involved with, along with what podcast he was a part of, along with what schedule he has now, what does he want to do, and how is he looking at approaching his 40s? What's he going to do with his 50s? And I'm not trying to inflate your ego unnecessarily, crafting, but I'm telling you that the things you're putting out there are good, high quality content. You take your time getting to it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I would be happy with a novelist that took 3 years to write a good novel.
Just don't go the George R.R. Martin route.
If crafting
That's my 2 cents there.
if crafting gets famous and then he can't be bothered to put down an ice cream cone and go type on his novel, that's 10 years later, and instead he's just going from Nerdarchy podcast to somewhere else. If he's just navigating that, we gotta get this limousine and the chauffeurs and the big thick neck Tonys and pick up Crafting Gamer. We'll take him out somewhere in the wilds of Idaho. What do you think you're doing? Why are you on all these podcasts? We've been waiting 7 years for your brand new book to come out, and you're over here chatting with these Instagram thick hardy girls, and you got the shorty jerking it, on the podcast. We need you to sit down and be serious about your career. I got to find out how the monkey makes it through.
I'm dying here.
I got to see how this evolves. I want to know the ending of your story. Thank you, T-Virus Sarahs. I can see that. I can see somebody getting pissed at someone like Crafting or some other good content creator, and if they've made 3 or 4 good stories, they're hey, I'm going to stretch a little bit. Give me about a few years. I gotta see what this is all about, and they get sucked right into the fame, and they're doing the MTV show with Monty Cook or Jen Page, and they're talking politics in the Superman Metropolis universe and discussing the mayor's rights and what he can exercise over the Daily Planet and arm-barring people, in political arenas. And instead of doing all that circuit work, sit down at your damn desk, type it, finish the story. We're waiting. And I thought we were going to have a moment in the early 2000s where somebody would drive into Maine and grab Stephen King and be like, dude, you've been working on the Dark Tower since 1978. What the fuck, man? And thank God he did finish the book series, but yet he keeps adding more stuff to the universe of the Dark Tower. He hasn't boxed it up yet. He hasn't put it up yet. And instead, he's evolving that world, even though the main quest is over. There's no more Dark Tower. But what he's doing is he's literally trying to throw you some extra bits of cake. So oh, you like the stories of Arthur Eld? Oh, you like the guys that journeyed along the path? And he does that. Crafting, don't do this, please. Do your series. Do your extended series of books. Do it for a session of time for maybe 5 or 10 years. Write 3 or 5 books and end it. If you want to, in 4 or 6 years' time after that, you can continue on a generational tale of the children of those heroes or personas within that universe. But don't have them rely on mom and dad. Have them go through the pain of early and mid-adulthood of having to bury a parent. Make that part of the process, because that's when you're definitely passing torch on. This is a new set of heroes. But don't keep. Well, we got to go back to this guy, even though he's 86 years of age. Don't be like Hollywood grabbing Harrison Ford. Be like, we got to take you in and scan you. We're going to de-age you for a new set of movies, and we're gonna soullessly create another Indiana Jones movie that nobody needs. Don't do that. Get a new hero.
They actually finished that movie? I thought it was canceled.
They made a fifth Indiana Jones movie, and it didn't do that well. I'm not saying that they were cursed, but I'm saying a lot of people that have watched the Indiana Jones movies didn't like part 4. So part 5 was right out, not into it.
Yeah.
And nobody I knew wanted to see part 5.
I have my own theory on that. I think they wanted to kill another patriarchal, quote unquote, icon of the 80s. And so they made 5, emasculated him, made the Mary Sue character the protagonist, and everybody saw through the BS and said, "This is shit. We don't like it." And then the reing happened, and then it quietly died away.
Currently, right now, on Wikipedia, still the largest box office bomb is still Cutthroat Island, which the Crafting Gamer recommended to us, and that is a great movie. That
it's a good movie.
Carolco saddled that movie with $60 or $70 million worth of debt that Carolco had at the time, and they were betting on Carolco getting out of debt with Cutthroat Island because you had Gina Davis, Matt Modine, and you had a good set of people that were going to teach these guys their own stunts and save them some money because there were no stunt people in that movie. Everybody did their own stunts, or anybody that had like a top 10 cast character, 10 from the top, they were doing their own stunts. So they saved some film cheddar there, and they put this movie to work, and they shoved it in the theaters with $70 million worth of debt. And then you had the Hollywood cartel that the reviewers just bombed the shit of it. And it wasn't guys on YouTube. It was the critics that killed it, and so never got steam. Beavers Terrence says, Bruce, Terrence must go. As always, it's a pleasure speaking with you. Take care of yourself because Earth is a terrible planet. Terrence out? Yes. However, that's the Guinness Book of World Records says $70 million is the worst that's ever been lost on Cutthroat Island. I'm willing to put money down that T-Virus Terrence is onto something, and they have lost over $250 to $300 million on the Indiana Jones 5, and they're not disclosing it because they don't want to hold that trophy. They don't want that potato when it's hot. They want it to like give it a year or two, and then they'll throw a couple ads out there on the streaming platforms for like some anniversary of one of the first 3 good Indiana Jones movies, and then like, oh, by the way,
get the hype going.
Yeah, and they'll try to have it sail on the hype.
Nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
Well, I have a 3-part answer to what you were saying earlier about 3 things not to do, basically. Well, the closest I'll ever do for, I can't remember exactly what I was talking about, but because it reminded me of this, is closest I've ever done to what you first thing you said not to do is for my first book, I had a giant robot that got destroyed. For my second book, I followed the little story of that robot as to why it got to where it was in life. So not the Dark Tower, not quite like the Dark Tower where it's just this unending thing. It's like, no, this is just a little side story that's not going to actually affect the main series that it was based off of. What was the second thing? I had a complete brain fart right there. I knew what I was talking about, then it just went away.
It's okay.
Could be worse.
Yeah.
You could be lying in bed and you pee yourself, or you poop yourself, or you pee and poop yourself, and then you don't get out of bed till like the afternoon. But you should never go to a rest home, folks. Fight it.
I'm with the type of movies that the mainstream is forcing out now. Movies like what we watched today, Hundreds of Beavers, they have the chance to create something at a tenth of the cost, maybe a fifth of the 1/20th of the cost that a Marvel movie might require. And that's
Yeah, I think this movie was estimated at $150,000.
And they
Yeah.
spent 10 grand on costuming.
hmm
Onesies and big furry hats.
Fucking furry fest. Oh god, it's a movie for normies and fringe and furries. It's for everyone,
It
and it's
actually
great.
was for everyone. I enjoyed this movie more than I have any right to.
Like normally, I get creeped out when I see a furry suit, unless it's supposed to be sports ball, because that's like a mascot or what have you. But this was well done. It was cartoony and funny as fuck, and it was just well done. And you'll see it, and you'll go, "That is freaking ridiculous," but I'm going to watch it.
What is something that you would want to explore movie wise? If Crafty, I'll ask you this first. In terms of movies and entertainment, if you could have like a Make-A-Wish, and you could get, we'll just say 3 movies that would appear on the horizon, what movies would they be?
Batman versus the Justice League, properly done, because there is a comic of that. I would love to see that done. I'd love to say an 8th Tremors movie, but both the actor and the character were getting too old for that.
Are you talking about Stephen Gross?
Yeah.
Okay. He was definitely the driving force, it felt like, behind that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Burt Gummer, the ultimate spirit animal.
Yeah, when we watch number 2, I will point out the scene that makes him the icon of that series.
Okay.
Because at some point we have to watch number 2. So I'd have to say my number 2. Ooh, a proper Dead Space movie. Because I kind of checked out the one they made in the 90s. It was okay. Dead Space, the video game, had a much better premise than a virus. It is a alien signal. And I'd love to see a really good Dead Space movie.
If it's going to be animated, have it different animation than what they put out. Because
they had,
you mean
what's that? Didn't they do like cellular animation or cell shaded animation for the one Dead Space movie?
I want to say that they did, but it was just it was poorly done and just poorly written. Ugh. Like the video game series was interesting.
That was definitely the problem that I had when I watched it, was the content.
Yeah. Well, what I seen in the movie immediately turned me off. So, and my third movie, that's a. I'm going to kind of lump these in together. Everything from Prometheus on in the Alien series redone properly. They were good concepts, but a lot of shit they did was wrong, such as the people. People, like companies, would not spend billions of dollars and then let people that would panic that easily on their fucking ships as crewmen. Maybe in the sleeping pods, but not as crewmen. And little things like that need to be changed throughout the entire movies.
There would be behavioral drugs and conditioning before that.
Exactly.
I would go so far as to say redo 3, 4, and onward. I would
3 and 4.
I would touch up the screw up with this. What was it? Alien.
Covenant.
No,
Covenant?
the
Right.
one that just came out.
Oh, well, that's what I mean. Everyone.
Romulus, yeah.
That's why I said everything from. Well, I don't know Prometheus. The one that has their showing the aliens are actually a virus to begin with. It's like that's fucked up. Even in the original comic books, they were one of the species that came from the predator planet. They were actually an ancient race, just as ancient as the predators, therefore just as ancient as the forerunners or whatever the fuck they're called.
I would like them to just redo the AVP storyline.
Yeah, that would be another good one.
Base it off the books. That would be interesting.
Yeah, Concrete Jungle.
Or the comic.
Concrete Jungle is my favorite. That's my favorite comic of all time. I usually talk about like Ragnarok by Walt Simonson, which is really damn good. And in my opinion, that stands as, it stands head and shoulders equal to his work with the original Thor. But I want to say Concrete Jungle Predator is like my favorite graphic novel of all time because it goes into Dutch's brother and it talks about the various problems that Dutch had before his death from radiation poisoning. And you have this really cool story of how the damn Gontas, I believe that's how you pronounce it, are in the West Coast cities. And it's just fucking good. Hi, Sort of Poopus Cuber. How you doing today, sir? Have you guys ever read that series?
Not completely, no.
Not at all.
I started to, and then got distracted and never picked it up. I've got a shit ton of books that are like that. I've been finding them on PDF, so.
Okay, because
I've got a digital library on a disc, and I'm like, one of these days, catch 5 minutes. We'll start it up again.
That's actually a really solid series, in my opinion. Concrete Jungle has a definite beginning, middle, end to it. And by the time you're at the end, you could be happy without reading another Predator on Earth story for the next 3 years. Because that's how I felt. I didn't need another Predator story. I thought Dark Horse had hit a home run with it. And my dad read it. And my dad's like, this was really good. And my dad's not the type of guy that like he'll actually page through a comic more than 2 or 3 pages. He would just like look at most of them like, oh, yeah, whatever. Now, the ones he did like were the DC comics of Star Trek back in the early 90s. Because we would buy like 7 or 8 of those. And then we would go camping. And we just kind of pass those to each other before the daylight's out. And then we just talk about shit. As soon as nightfall hits, we're talking about UFOs and Bigfoot. Because you hear strange shit in the woods. But
nice.
I mean that. Where do you think my love for the paranormal and the cryptids came from? That's my dad. But my dad also got me into Star Trek, and he introduced me to things like Blade Runner, which we discovered that one together thanks to the Betamax. Had no idea that movie was like that until we started watching it, and afterwards I wouldn't shut up about it.
Holy shit, something big just flew by my house. I know that because the sun just blinked for a moment.
It's just a
oh my god, it's the dragons. The dragons have returned. Rain of fire.
That movie should have been good.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, it was entertaining, but man, it was poorly written.
It's good when you're a young teenager, but when you get to be an adult, you're like,
I was in my mid-20s, and I took my dad to go see that, and I felt bad about it because I was disappointed in it. And the first 2 acts were okay. They had enough personal drama in it, but not enough dragon. And by the time it's time for the dragon, there still wasn't enough dragon in that movie. It just disappointed me so much. They had good fire effects. The fire effects in that movie are pretty much, I think those are the best fire effects I've seen in a film. Even the new one, the new movie on Netflix, which I don't recommend anybody watch. It's called Damsel. That's a horrible film, but the flaming pitch that the dragon belches out, that's kind of cool. I don't like the fact that she's susceptible to her own breath weapon. That
doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
No, that doesn't. Another dragon's breath.
That's like having an alien with acid blood.
And the acid burns them.
Yeah, like.
Well, that literally, I just thought about it. That literally goes straight into the one of the features I hated of the Klingon race from Farscape. The what the fuck are they called?
Fuck. Son of a bitch.
I'll have to find a new network to watch and stream all the Farscape stuff.
1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi.
Yeah, that guy. Fuck.
Vargo? No. I'm gonna look it up because it's bugging the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Nip this in the bud, damn it.
Well, anyway, these particular creatures have a very bizarre blood. If they get wounded, their blood turns black and it becomes poisonous to them. You literally have to physically beat the wound to force it to bleed and then do so until it's clear blood, and then they'll survive.
Because it's made out of MRE peanut butter and you got to knead it to get it to the right consistency.
That makes zero sense. Why?
No,
Why
I know. And there's supposed to be a warring race on top of that.
Luxons, that's what they are.
Thank you.
And it's Kadargo, or Dargo for short. Yeah, the sword rifle.
My name
I love
is
the
Torgo.
idea of the sword rifle.
It was
my name is Torgo.
interesting concept with their blood, but it didn't quite make any sense. Like, really?
Now, if you were to say that it beating those speeds up healing, that would have made far more sense. Then you could still have the beat him when he's wounded joke.
Stub your toe and then continue to kick the coffee table till it's healed.
Yeah.
There's a saying down here that my Mexican friends have, and it's something you say when somebody's being an idiot and they just refuse to learn. It's like, that guy he kicks a cactus.
Oh, yeah, I could see that being a saying.
Why the fuck are you going to kick a cactus? You're just going to hurt yourself more. And the guy's like, I don't know. But you have that down here.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have a
So to
like
circle back, that was like 2 movies. What was the third one?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I said number 1 was Batman versus the Justice League. Number 2 was crap, I already forgot. I just remember basically everything from the
Aliens.
I think
right.
Yeah, well, yeah, for me everything from AVP, well, I'd have to agree with Bruce. AVP 1 could be better. So I'll say for everything from AVP 1 on as my number 3. Because most of them have good bones, they just need subtle changes to make them better.
Yeah, just get a stronger script going and people knowledgeable with the lore. You could easily fix that.
Like, I don't know.
For me, there's a crap ton that I could see either being done or fixed. Like, the Dark Tower is pretty much an impossibility, but it would be epic to do it as like a serial, which I think they're working on. And if they were to do it like the books, it would be interesting, at least the first couple.
Up to part 3, or 4. Like the drawing of the 3. Well, the first book is really hard for me to read. I'm not gonna lie. That's like a slog.
It's basically a Western, but it's
It is.
like a wasteland, post-apocalyptic Western.
Yeah, and then the drawing of the 3 happens, and that book just starts off with a bang because you meet the junkie, and he is on the jet, and the gunslinger possesses him, and his eyes change color, and the fucking waitress, the stewardess, is having a fucking crisis because she's like, I don't remember that guy's eyes being so blue before. Did he go in the bathroom? No, I don't remember him getting up and going to the bathroom. What the fuck is going on? This guy's really wigging me out. And so she tells the pilot, like, hey, we got a problem here. And he's already acting kind of weird because he's having a conversation internally because the gunslinger is jacked into his head. You know, he's came in and told him, like, listen, we're going to have discussions. You're one of the people that is part of my life right now. And then he gets in there's the lady that she's in the wheelchair. Netta, I think is her name. And then she come to find out she's got a split personality. One of them's really good. One of them's really bad.
Yeah.
And then there's the pusher. And that's the guy that he's a serial killer, but he's in the subways and he shoves people on the tracks right as the train is coming by. And fucking the gunslinger has to watch Jake die. Not only does he watch him die in his world, he has to watch Jake die in Jake's own world. And that fucking just rips him apart. You have really good internal mental trauma. And then you have, after the drawing of the 3, they kind of go into the wastelands a little bit. And they have their adventures in the wastelands, and that's just fantastic. Up to the point where they hit Blaine the Train, which I think is probably the best 1,700 pages of fiction I've read as a young adult. I didn't read
Eat your heart out, Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah. Thomas the Tank Engine is a post-apocalyptic tale. I don't care what they say. That internet video is right. The first 3 or 4 books of Dark Tower are really great. They're fucking poetry almost. But then I read The Lord of the Rings, and I got it. I understood why King was obsessed with it, and he would read it every like 3 or 4 years, and he wanted to model the gunslinger off of that and kind of expand on some of the ideas that are in Lord of the Rings, but he kind of goes a lot further. Instead of writing a Silmarillion, which is kind of like your Bible for the whole movie and the whole series, and you have this reference that should never change ever. He instead kind of goes on these meandering path, and like books 5 and 6, the gunslinger are kind of they're okay, they're not as great. The vampires are an interesting bit, but book 7, I felt just completely sucked. I hate to say it, but I hated the finale of the Gunslinger series, and so I didn't even watch the Gunslinger movie because I'm not even going to tease myself. 90 minutes, yeah, let's do it. No,
I made the mistake of watching it. It was free on cable when I still had cable, and I didn't realize that it was playing. I was just like, "Oh, there's a dude with some cap and ball Wait, oh shit! This is the Dark Tower, really?" Like, don't get me wrong, I love Idris Elba, but the Dark Tower series was not one of his best works. Like, if I want to see him in an action movie with kind of fantastical stuff, I'll just go back to Ultraviolet miniseries from I think it was '98 when it came out. About modern day vampires and the Vatican going after them, and that was solid compared to the Dark Tower movie.
On IMDb right now, they have an official trailer for Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim, which I don't know if it's going to be good or not. It
sounds like it could be good if it's done well.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get my hopes up because most of the stuff's been shit.
Brian Cox is Helm Hammerhand. Miranda
That'll be
Otto
cool.
is Eowyn, and it's animated film. It's not live action.
That'll be a little bit easier to deal with, I guess.
Yeah, their writing credits. This disappoints because they got Jeff Addis, Will Matthews, Phoebe Gittin, Artie Papagoriou, Jeffrey Addis, Will Matthews, and Will Matthews twice, once for story, one for screenplay, and Pippa Boyens. And then they have the based on characters by J.R.R. Tolkien. That's the writing credits. I don't see anything about Peter Jackson, but the first 2 seconds of the trailer says Peter Jackson presents. So it's trying to rope you in like, hey, we got the good guy, the one you all loved. And yeah, well, I loved him for LOTR, but I hated the Hobbit movies. And they could go good. This could be great, but this is an Amazon production, and
Yeah.
Rings of Power has really saddened me, and I'm sorry about that.
So what else was there? Guillermo del Toro was trying to get At the Mountains of Madness produced. And as a Lovecraft fan, I don't give a shit about how he was racist and whatnot. That was a product of his time and age, and we can all move on from that and stop beating a dead horse and then resurrecting it. I would love to see that as an actual live action film. I don't know if it would be physically possible because it's epic in nature and it's hard to put stuff like that into film. I've seen computer games kind of touch on it and it looks really good. So I got hope. Maybe not in my lifetime, but one day. And then as a third movie, I don't know. It's hard to say. I would like to have it magically appear and get the director's cut of Event Horizon.
That will never happen.
Yeah.
Do you know the story behind that, Crafting Gamer?
Nope.
Have you watched Event Horizon?
I've been told I should.
Okay. So there's this new space drive that they put on a ship, and it's supposed to cut down time by literally folding space. And therefore, you insert hard cut of people folding a piece of paper and poking a hole from one side of the paper to another, having instantaneous transport, and that happens in like every movie. Well, they figure out how to do this, and this ship does it, but when it comes out, it doesn't have a crew. So they send Sam Neill, I think.
Yeah.
And Lawrence Fishburne is the captain of the ship. They send these two along with a crew to go investigate what happened to the Event Horizon. And they made a really good horror movie if it was a student project. It's not a student project. It's a major motion picture. There's some things that just, the ball got dropped, lots of studio interference, made it seem less than what it really was. And
Sounds like it would be a good precursor movie to the 40K series.
Yeah, it's kind of like Hellraiser in space or Spaceship Turned Haunted House type of thing.
It could go easy with 40K because of all the shit that you find in the warp. And I like that movie a lot. And supposedly they'd stowed all the original prints in this facility overseas. I want to say Hungary. And they had a fire at this facility and all the footage got waxed. And you see like 1/10 of stuff they salvaged in the very last 5 minutes, where you see all these grisly, horrible scenes of people getting ripped apart by demons and shit. and trying to survive with like part of their eyeballs dangling out and their guts spilling out of their body, just being eviscerated by extraplanar creatures. Because they did manage to salvage some of the stuff from the film, not a whole lot. And the rest of that film is gone. A director's cut could still happen, but you'd have to open up a studio money to have them redo shots that was lost in the fire. Is it more possible now in 2024 than in 1997? I think so, because of the magic of Blender and other CGI things. And this movie wasn't like super heavy reliant on physical as much as I wanted it to be. There's a lot more CGI involved with it, but there are some really good practical effects shots.
That's kind of dated with CGI too.
Yeah, the CGI in this movie looks bad. The practical effects shots look really good. But with the magic we can do nowadays, I think that a lot of it, we could just make it, cut it, press it into director's edition, and have the movie that we should have gotten. But because of studio interference, this movie is one of those, it's like a 6 out of 10 for a lot of people.
Well, toss in an extra one. Solomon Kane. Love the stories. The movie was shit.
There was a movie.
Would love it.
2010 or 2013?
Something like that, yeah. I want to say the 2010s.
That movie's not... I don't think the movie's crap. I think that movie does a better job of honoring Solomon Kane. And forgive me, Robert, but the 2012 Conan the Barbarian with Jason Momoa is not a bad film. It's done in the theme of the Conan movies. It's just the story and execution. It would have been a better movie with a better director.
Yeah.
And that's my complaint about it.
I will still watch Solomon Kane.
Yeah.
But knowing how awesome he is in the stories and his witch doctor throw that can possess bodies and stuff, like there was so much material that they didn't use. It was basically, we got a medieval fantasy thing with some dude that looks like a Puritan. And it's like they dropped the ball on it when they made it. It's entertaining as a popcorn, beer and pretzels type of thing, but as far as like doing it from the original content and translating it well, there isn't anything out there.
Yeah,
and I'd like to see that.
This movie could have used a lot of budget, and it didn't. Now it's got Max von Sydow, it's got some other really good actors in it, but it's not what I wanted. It's got some problems. Is it watchable? Yeah. It's more honorable to the Solomon Kane universe that was written about by Robert Howard, but it's still a far cry from what we should have gotten. James Purefoy is in it. He's not a bad actor. He's done some good work. He was in Rome, Altered Carbon, Fisherman's Friends, Happen Leonard.
Altered Carbon was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you like sci-fi and trippy stories and lots of boobies, it's good.
I can't complain about it.
No.
The movies I want to see. I want to group the first one. It's actually 3 movies, but my first pick is going to be the Thrawn trilogy. I got robbed.
That would be epic.
You guys got robbed. We all got robbed in the 90s. George Lucas is not known for his smart decisions. He did make the holiday special, Then afterwards, he figured in the 90s we'd forget about it. No.
Actually, I enjoy the holiday special compared to the Alkalite and a bunch of other crap that's come out. So
I just stopped watching Star Wars. I'll read the old D6 stuff. I'll read the old EU, the written EU, including the RPG, completely canonical for me. Everything since the Disney purchase, meh.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
even had like up until they released the Corellian Corvette, I had multiples of all the Star Wars miniature X-wing. I had like I had 20 TIE fighters, I had 12 X-wings, I had 6 B-wings, I had 6 A-wings, I had 6 Y-wings, I had multiples of the fucking Millennium Falcon, I had multiples of the little shuttle that they use. It just, I had everything you ever wanted for that. And I looked at this kid as I came back from The Force Awakens, and I wasn't excited about it. I was kind of like, go fuck yourself. You know, that movie sucked. And got into an argument at a game store, and I had all my stuff. I'm like, I'll sell you all of it. I'll give you my tackle box, which holds everything. It's all yours. Give me $300 cash. And I probably spent well over $1,500 on that. That was an extensively and expensive, stupid collection. I even had the little swarm fighters that the Alliance had to take on the TIE fighters if you didn't want to bring out X-Wings, you know, because like you need 2 TIE fighters to take on an X-Wing. And it was an okay game, but I was just so upset at Star Wars, at Disney, at Lucas. I'm good. I don't need to see it anymore. And I hate to say that, but I would want them to put forth an honest effort of a Timothy Zahn honoring Zahn Thrawn trilogy. And I think they could do it if they would just stop making miserable Disney Plus TV shows. Because that's all I'm seeing. Like, I don't even open up YouTube because I'm going to see, right now, I'll see 7 videos of The Acolyte is canceled. I don't care. I didn't care about Andor, which is the one everybody says I need to see. I didn't care about The Mandalorian, which wasn't going to be a Mandalorian to Bruce because there's only one Mandalorian, and then there's the copycat, Jango Fett. Not is it Jango Fett? There's Boba, and then there's the guy that wants to be like him, and Boba Fett just beats the shit out of him every time he sees him and leaves him to where he's barely able to go into an emergency room or back to tank. But that would be the one trilogy I'd like to see. Second movie I'd like to see. I would love to see. I'm going to go back to the 80s here. No surprise. I want to see the world of Rumblefish and the Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. I'd want to see that, how it evolved into the late 80s, because all those books were supposed to be set in the 70s and 60s, right?
yeah.
And I want to know how their kids turned out, because I used to read all of those in middle school. And those were fun, entertaining books. Rumblefish was kind of a downer. The Outsiders was probably her high point. That was a really, really good book. The movie was very, very honorable to it. There was a TV series on Fox that was not that good. It was okay, but all of the main cast looked like they were 60s kids. But whenever they would have anybody else, like they wouldn't do any hair or makeup to make them look like they were part of the late 60s. They didn't do any of that. It just was like low effort. And that was the biggest problem that I ever had with the Outsiders TV show. Fox Network, when it first came out in the late 80s, had some cool ideas. They had an interesting concept of Parker Lewis Can't Lose, and then Parker Lewis...
Pretty edgy for its time. You know,
Yeah.
Married with Children was its flagship, and it kind of like took off from there.
That was their high point. And then they had a bunch of other things that sucked. They had Parker Lewis, which was kind of a mid tier. It was okay, it was like a B or C series. And then you had Werewolf, which was like I think 2 seasons. It might have been 2 seasons,
Mhm.
but that was Chuck Connor's best role after he did The Rifleman. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
things he did from like the 50s to the late 80s, but Werewolf, where he stars as a sheriff and he pursues.
That was an awesome show too.
I can get you the link on YouTube. If you just
Oh.
search it on YouTube, it's there.
Yeah,
All of
I
it.
saw it a couple of years ago on YouTube, and I remember it being one of the first TV series that actually had like a rock and roll soundtrack. Like everything else was either synth or they went with older,
Old established music.
like what was it? Crime Story was playing doo-wop and old school rock and roll. But this was like a relatively modern soundtrack to a cool TV series about werewolves, and unfortunately, we never got to see the final season, which would have tied everything together.
Yeah, it was. Didn't they end it on the precipice of the finale? They didn't.
Yeah,
They didn't,
like
go ahead.
Brian. God, what was his name? Not Brian James. The dude from Cobra, the serial killer guy. He was supposed to be the I think the main werewolf. Chuck Connors was actually his underling or whatever, and then it left on a cliffhanger. And what's his face is the sheriff. Dude, that guy was iconic. He'd been in TV and film for years.
You had John J. York as the main guy. Lance Lee Galt was Alan Rogan, and then you had Chuck Connors as the sheriff. Brian Thompson.
There we go.
He was Nicholas Remy in that show, and that was a fucking good show. That's one of the better shows that we had, and they killed it. The other time, that and Alien Nation, when those 2 shows were canceled, that was when I knew that this is a real TV network, because they just canceled the shows I liked. I know that sounds so pathetic, right? First world problems. Oh,
it's
no.
Okay. I watched Alien Nation too. I always got a kick out of it as a kid because, like, here we're told, oh, don't drink and drive and don't do drugs, and here these aliens are getting hopped up on spoiled milk. And then they got the super math.
They had super math, and then they also, if you ever needed to like tune one up, you got a few thick necks together, you drive them to the ocean, and you watch them start flipping out.
Oh yeah,
fucking salt water would dissolve them real fast. It'd be like battery acid to them. It was great. I don't know. That was a very inventive show, and I think we had like,
it was a cool movie. The television show actually was done real well.
They had
for its time.
Movies that wrapped it up over the course of like 3 years.
I think this goes to the whole idea of that we've got a back catalog of a crap ton of content that is worth revisiting, at least, and at best, if you like it, watch the hell out of it. You'll see stuff that you haven't seen in years. You'll see stuff that hasn't been done or touched upon, like expanded on, and it's well worth the visit. Go ahead, Crafty. Didn't mean to interrupt, brother.
Crafting Gamer?
Oh, I didn't say anything. Well,
I thought you were getting ready to say something, man.
Am I still here?
Yeah, you're here.
I coughed, and I might have been getting ready to say that I seen an Alien Nation the movie, but that was about it.
Late 80s to early 90s, they had the Alien Nation TV show, and then over the course of like 4 movies, up until like 96 or 97, they wrapped up the final bit of that story set, and it was really uh, a well done, well crafted narrative, because they had to switch over to like doing one movie every 2 years or so. And I remember like 3 or 4 films. They, if you get a chance to see them, it'll probably be on like the dark web that you pick it up from, but it's good enough to where you're going to enjoy yourself.
Detective George Francisco. Like, oh, look, we've got alien visitors. They were a slave race. Now they've integrated into America, the land of opportunity. We can't be fucked with giving them real names. Let's just go through the phone book and jumble up some key figures from U.S. history, scrabble them some names.
And that's what they did for those poor guys. I kind of felt sorry for them.
Yeah.
My name's George Washington. Sure you are, buddy. This guy's got like this huge sponge on his head. He looks like a Jakar before there was a Jakar from Babylon 5. I would love it if
Oh, and they had their genitalia in their armpits, if I remember correctly. Don't kick them in the balls where you think the balls are. Got to button hook them in the armpit. Drop like a rock.
That actually would make for a really good campaign world for a modern style RPG. And you could go along all the traditional, like the old themes and kind of storylines that the X-Men had from like the 70s into the 80s, because there was a lot of, like, one of the things that the X-Men did really well with was it had the racism angle that they rebranded it with the mutants. You know, I love how they did a lot of that, and this movie would make for a convincing modern day or almost modern day world where we have the newcomers here and we're trying to acquiesce and bring them along. You know, your planet's dead, you can survive here, we'll give you enclaves. And you could have a fairly convincing and not woke storyline for your tabletop games. And I'm surprised that nobody has tried to do that. There's other themes and other properties out there that Coriolis, I think, shares some property or engines with Blade Runner and Aliens. I might be wrong, but the Blade Runner and Aliens universes, I thought, were the same engine. I could, like I said, it could
be something like that. Could be adjacent. It was like pre-District 9 without the shrimps.
Fat Steven Skull, Fat Steven JFG, one of the better gamers, streamers out there, woefully unsubbed. He's gifted us 10 Bruce Lombardo Dix Division memberships. Didn't have to do that, sir, but I do appreciate it. I hope you're doing well today, sir. Stephen, we're talking about movies in general and properties we'd like to see expanded upon, because we did talk about a movie called Hundreds of Beavers. And if you've seen Hundreds of Beavers, then I'd want to invite you in here and talk about it. If you've not seen it, I get it, but that is a fantastic movie. dropping by, waiting on dinner.
Does internet porn count? Had to throw it in. We didn't do a good beaver joke yet.
There's a fantastic movie called Hundreds of Beavers. It's a slapstick homage to like 1920s, 1930s style comedies. If you get a chance to watch it, do recommend. Probably the best comedy I've seen in 2-3 years. There's really not many other comedies out there that have been released in the last 2 years. The only one I can really think of is Lady Ballers, and that was it. Everything else has fallen flat. And those two movies are bringing comedy back as much as, yeah, put it on the list. Lady Ballers was really good. If you like conservative comedy, or if you like comedy, Lady Ballers has some satire, some punch you in the face satire. But this Hundreds of Beavers, out of nowhere, on a budget of $150,000, they give us this gift that's gift wrapped, and it's great. It's funny. It's worth your time.
Touches crass humor, video game culture, cartoons, and then just absurd slapstick comedy. It's an awesome movie, indie done. So it's going to be good, or at least not the Hollywood tropes.
Thank you, Fat Steven. That was awesome, sir. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. Next week, shit, we're at the 2-hour mark. The other movie we're doing while Janet is away, next movie we watch will be The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra. And my guests for that are going to be Bear and 6 Nation 31 Kings.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. You should be.
I hope you guys enjoy it. It's been like 20 years since I saw it in the theater, and I laughed my ass off. It was recommended by my friend Kelly, who worked at the theater and video store. And so during that time when I was a full-on 100% cinemaphile, just like, you're going to like this. If you like MSG3K, you'll get the humor. It's an homage to B and 1950s sci-fi films. So,
even if it's like just as good as, what was that Bryan Cranston movie that was spliced up with a bunch of little vignettes, and in the middle of it, like 3 or 4 spots, there's this mission to Mars or Amazon Women on the Moon. That's what it was?
Yeah, Amazon Women on the Moon.
Even if it's only as good as that would still be a pleasant surprise, because I really enjoyed Amazon Women on the Moon, not for the fact that Bryan Cranston hated it, but for the fact that it was actually kind of enjoyable, because it did something that very few films do, which is just go on the entire theory of, I want to have a whole bunch of vignettes with a paper-thin thread running through these, and that's it. That's all this is going to be. And it kind of got panned, but for what it is, it's fucking good. It's just not looked at very fondly because it is so different than the casual fodder that you normies would typically release in theaters. And I'm not calling you people normies, I'm calling the production and the manufacturing houses of entertainment. They usually just put out some trite casual narratives, and they don't take a chance. But that movie was a kind of a risk the way it was. Another reason why one of the reasons why I really enjoyed the movie that Crafting had me and Janet delve into, the children of
City of Lost Children.
City of Lost Children.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that name of the movie, but I'm seeing that little midget trying to administer to all the kids, and I really enjoyed that movie for, if nothing else, just the acid trip that it is. And it took so many chances with doing things that conventional movies didn't do. And that movie was made in 94, 95, and there's not been a whole lot of movies made since then that really kind of went out there on that ledge where it is. The only movie I can think of that even remotely reminded me of that when I saw the trailer is Mad God, which is a stop motion film that some guys worked on for over 20 years. And that is kind of a testament to one, tenacity, and two, with all the criticism and all the heaps of praise it gets, along with the fact like, well, it took you long enough. I was doing stop motion animation. Come on, and it's like a 2-hour film. It's going to take a while. We will eventually get to Mad God. I want to give it a little bit more time to pickle because I hate doing movies when they first come out. The only movie I've done it with so far is Nefarious. Me and Janet reviewed that while it was in select theaters, and we found that it was on Rumble. It was available on Rumble. It was on a lot of platforms for free because the designer, the director, the publisher wanted people to see it. They didn't really care if they made money. They had like one angle they took, and they made all their money back, or enough money back to where they weren't bothered anymore by the banking and finance. And so they released it on Rumble so you can watch it. And I saw it the other day when I was panning through the free movies on YouTube. It's on YouTube for free as well. So if you want to see a good Exorcist style film with a Christian-esque Christian-esque spin to it, excuse me, Nefarious is really good. And there's a lot of that movie that even today, it's been almost a year since we've seen it. That movie kind of haunts me a little bit. I don't know about you guys, but that's probably one of the scariest movies just because of all the things that are said and uttered and just the visceral shit that gets planted back there. You'll laying in bed and you hear something or your brain's like, hey, remember this line from this movie? And you're like, yeah, I'm not sleeping the next 30 minutes.
I liked it better than Red Door, to be honest. The latest, and that it's not really a series, but it's interconnected movie franchise, like The Nun, Nefarious, etc. Like it holds up pretty good. It was entertaining. And so, like, Exorcist being the gold standard for possession films, this ranks in the circle of Exorcist, Exorcist 3, technically Exorcist 2. I mean, it's a fun little romp, not as scary.
Yeah, Exorcist
cheesy as hell.
Is super cheddar. That's not exactly a movie you watch to get scared to. They've got some good practical effects. There's some really good scary things in it. It's not a fantastic movie though. Earlier,
I think I might have Mad Gone. Got me a copy of it somewhere.
If you guys get a chance, go sub to this fellow on Rumble. Pat Steven Seagal, JFG. Like I said, he's a game streamer. He has occasional streams where he does discussion and chills out with people, has a lot of fun. I need to hang out with him more often. I haven't for a while. Let's go figure, right?
Life.
Yeah, life happens.
Life gets in the way of stuff.
Yeah. Crafting, what are you working on right now with your hands? You've got your icon on. Usually you pop in and showcase something you're working on.
I'm still working on that giant ass Tyranid. I still have to get the first layer of green on his main body. I'm like, I'd say 80% done. Problem is, what's left is the fiddly bits because I gotta get the green in between the wings, and hopefully not too much on the wings themselves.
I hear you on that.
Fortunately, this model's on the larger side, so his wings are pretty easy to work with.
So I guess now would be the ideal time for me to ask. Next Sunday, crafting, would you be available to stream with us, me, Bear, and Six Nations, and discuss the lost skeleton of Cadavra?
Sure, I'll even try to remember to show up in time to watch it.
Fair enough. If you can't watch it with us, I believe a simple search on YouTube pulls it up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just recently, within the last couple of months, I think. It's weird. YouTube has unlocked, or people have bypassed the algorithm to put up some decent film on YouTube lately. I think it's to compete with all the streaming, to be honest.
Well, they'd rather get the
Aside
ad
from the high seas stuff. Yeah.
They'd rather get the ad dollars. They're willing to throw that out there. And then you have guys like me that I still pay YouTube $15 or $14 a month, so I don't have to deal with advertisements while I listen to YouTube music at work, because YouTube music has the best foreign and it has the best synthwave selection. Should that change, I'll go towards whatever that other service is. But right now it's YouTube music. And probably about every 8 months I'll pay for like a month of iHeartRadio or Spotify or something else just to see. And I can't do Pandora because Pandora is just like a random bullshit. Like, oh, you like these people? Well, we're going to play something over here and drop it in there, and you got to thumb down shit. Like, no, I'm listening to Sinatra. I don't want to listen to Brian Buby or whatever his name is. I don't want to listen to some guy do a cover, some guy with an auto tuner do a cover of Ain't That a Kick in the Head. I don't need that. Ugh.
Yeah, I listened to that on Pandora for 6 months. And then I realized, like, the longer I was using it, the more random the shit was. Like, at first I thought I was like, okay, this is kind of not in the genre. And then it got into left field and I'm like, wait a minute. I dropped Pandora quick. I was going to say something. Damn, I forgot what I was originally going to say.
I hate that when I have a brain fart and it just goes right out the side of my head. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like my rotator cuff injury. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to do some push-ups. Oh, ow. My deltoids and my bicep are hurting, and then the popping and the cracking and the fucking middle age creeping up on me. My advice, don't grow old. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. Stay young forever. Be immortal.
Or at the very least, when you stay young until you're 100 and then just croak for what seemingly no reason.
I think there's some of us that are actually going to be able to do that. I don't think I'll be in that number, because if you look at photos of me from like just 10 years ago, like I'm about 40 pounds lighter. I look like I'm healthy. I don't look like I've like turned into a great grandfather. I hit 48 and like all of a sudden like, whoo, what happened, Bruce? But there are other people here in our cadre that like they're 55, 60 years old and they're still spry. They're still doing stuff. I mean, Janet.
Dick Clark was a vampire.
Yeah, Janet's a
Just
vampire.
saying.
She's going to be like, we're going to find out someday, like she's going to croak, and they're going to be like, oh no, she was born in like the 1890s. You know. What?
I always like to think of Janet as the friendly succubus.
All her conservative values were from 200 years ago.
They were liberal ideas back then, and she's just held on to them tightly. Now she's like on the other end of the spectrum. She's going full circle. I love having her.
Like that quote from Johnny Rotten. You know, he always thought himself as a liberal, and then shocked to find out that like the alt-right ended up being the cool guys, and the liberals ended up being the authoritarians.
Yeah.
Reject modernity, embrace tradition.
So we'll be back for the 31st. No, we're going to be skipping next weekend for D&D, and we'll be back next Sunday for discussion of the movie The Lost Skeleton of Cadabra. And then we probably won't have any show on the 8th of August, or the 8th of September. I'm sorry about that. Then, the 8th of September. And then in October, the weekend of the 5th and 6th, that's the weekend that Gina Carano is in town. So probably be at the convention with Janet and some others that are here. But that's the only absenteeisms I'm going to be doing for my weekends. Everybody that's here, appreciate you being here. It's Pat Stevens Seagal, T-Virus Terrence, Snorta Poopas Cuber, Soy Base Jeremy, Janet from another planet laughing there at us. Bruce, you called me a vampire. I was not born in 1890. Love her to bits. Why? I tell you what, if Janet ever makes this decision, my wife's going to make sure I disappear. They'll find my corpse like 300 years in the future in a barrel or somewhere, like all eaten up. But what happened to Bruce? We have no idea. I don't know.
Be like the hunger. They'll just put you in a crate.
Or if Janet really is a vampire, like, here you go, Janet. Here's my sacrifice. I love you. And
what happened to Bruce's channel? It turned into Vampire the Masquerade. There's these two hotties on there, and we don't know what happened to them.
Completely diablerizes me, completely gets rid of me. I've never seen again. They find like bits of my dust somewhere.
We'll have to do a seance to locate you.
Anyway, appreciate you all being here. This was a great day. Janet, if you want to watch the stream, go on ahead. We talk really nice about you when you're gone too. We want everybody to be safe, keep their head on swivel. There's a lot of shit that's just going on, and if you hear it repeated, and it seems to be like it's from the government trying to help you out, ignore it. Just let it pass. It's going to go away after November. But we'll hopefully see you next weekend. Next Sunday, we talk about the Lost Skeleton of Cadabra. Thank you so much. My name is Bruce. Thank you, 6 Nations, 31 Kings. Thank you, The Crafting Gamer.
No problem.
Peace, y'all.